Before there were maps, there were two worlds. The world you know, and the shining realm of Kaf, hidden just beyond it. A kingdom of fairies and giants and magic. On the night he was born, an emperor 1,000 miles away woke from a dream. A black crow that stole his crown, and a bright hawk that flew out of the west to win it back. And the wise men said, "That hawk is a child, and he will shake the thrones of the world." That same night, the fairies of Kaf carried the sleeping baby across the sky. They blessed him, and they touched his eyes, so that nothing hidden could ever hide from him again. His name was Hamza. He would become the bravest champion the world had ever seen. Strong as a lion, a warrior against 100 armies, a prince who lost his heart to a princess, and at his side, the cleverest trickster who ever lived. Amar, a thief of 1,000 disguises, and the truest friend a hero ever had. Together, they crossed burning deserts and enchanted mountains. They faced sorcerers and giants and dragons and the demon armies of Kaf. They saw wonders no eye had ever seen. Thrones that flew, cities of gold, gardens that bloomed in the dark, courage, magic, love, and laughter. One of the greatest stories ever told, carried for 1,000 years. And now, it is yours. This is the dastan of Amir Hamza. The tellers who weigh their words, children, weigh these pages heaviest of all. 3 bereavements in a single season. I will read them as the dastan wrote them, without mercy and without despair. Stay close to the lamp. The first grief came dressed as hospitality. In the far north, among the gardens of Kashmir, a remnant of the enemy had taken shelter, and Hamza sent his eldest son to break them. Amr, the son of the Greek princess, a young man now with his father's face and his father's word. And at the height of the siege, there came, out of the trees, a wild ass, that beast that fate sends when a thread is about to be cut. Amr gave chase, as young men do, and the chase carried him far from his champions, and stranded him at Farkhar, the city of gardens. And there a woman named Gulchahra looked down from her balcony, and saw him, and decided, in the space of one look, to keep him. She pressed him with feasting, and with wine, and at the last with her own arms. But Amr would not turn. "A sister of yours is married to my father," he said. "I will not do a deed against the law." He deflected her with courtesy. He stalled her with counsel he did not need. And when at last she wound herself around him, drunk, he answered with a slap, half in scandal, half in play. And then, children, the ugliest logic in the world. For she had a proverb ready, and she made it her confession. "Neither yours nor mine," she said. "Throw it in the fire." And she took up a sword, and over her own crime she raised the shriek, "Who has killed the Amir's son?" As though grief itself could hide the hand that struck. But Addy came, and Addy counted aloud. No enemy had entered. The doors were hers. The grief was the alibi, and she confessed with a simplicity that chills the blood to this day. I was in the grip of love. Punish me. Yet the companions could not lift a hand, for a man does not strike a woman, and so their own code held them helpless, and they only bound her and sent her to her own brother, who cleaned his house's name off in the dark. Now hear how the news travelled. For Hamza dreamed his son lying in a pool of blood, and woke, and sent Amar. And Amar came to Farkhar, and learned everything, and tore his collar, and then did the thing that his whole strange soul was made for. He went back to Hamza, and he lied. "Wounded," he said, "in Farkhar. He asks for you. Ride." And on the road, one garden short of the truth, he stalled again. "Rest here an hour." Eat something first. For a man should not hear such news hungry. That was the last con of the trickster, the tenderest deception in all the dastan, to put bread in his master before the blow fell. He slaughtered a goat there for kebabs, in a garden that belonged to a giant, and the giant came storming in over his stolen goat swinging a mace of 17,000 pounds. And Hamza, not even rising from where he sat, caught the giant, and wrestled him, and flattened him into the grass. And the old strong man, from underneath, asked the seated stranger his name, and heard it, and laughed at the perfection of his own defeat, and swore himself Hamza's man on the spot. He opened his mouth to speak of the sun, but Amar's hand rose and silenced him, and so the whole conspiracy of kindness widened by one more stranger. Then the city gate, the companions' faces. Your son has been killed. And Hamza went very quiet. Children, the way the sea goes out before it comes back in. 40 days of mourning. And the Greek princess, shown her son's murderer, said only 2 words, "Alas, my son," and followed him into the ground before the season was out. 1 sentence in the book. And the unfairness of it, children, is the whole point. The second grief wore the trickster's own craft, turned inside out. Far to the south, a queen begged Hamza to rescue her lord, the old emperor Naushavan, caged by an Abyssinian king. Amar counselled against it. But because a queen had asked, and because mercy in Hamza was a reflex before it was a choice, he went with Mukbil, and the desert swallowed them both in delay. And while he was lost out there, the caged emperor and his captor reconciled, the oldest key in the world opening that cage from the inside, a plot to seize Hamza's own wife, Nigar, with her father's blessing. For sentiment, children, does not survive being held too close to power. And into the sleeping camp, at midnight, walked an assassin of the old kings, with an offer already accepted, the heads of the Arab chiefs, one by one. The tent he chose was the boy king's, Hamza's grandson, Kubad. 2 guards named Victory and Triumph stood watch and saw nothing. A tent peg lifted, a shadow's work. I will not show you the blade, only the lamp inside the tent going dark, and the crown upon its cushion, and the shadow slipping out into the waiting arms of Amar's men who took him alive. Then the camp woke to its doomsday. Adi's roar, Landhar on his knees, and Mir Nigar over her son, her heart charred in the fire of her grief. And far away in his own capital, the old emperor mourned the grandson his own word had bought. And the grief was entirely sincere. Black banners rose on both horizons at once, and the war itself fell silent under the weight of a sorrow both sides shared. And now, children, the third grief, the one that widowed the whole story. The rites ended, the fighting resumed, and Hamza and Amar came back at last out of the desert. The joy of that reunion curdling in real time as the field emptied around one running figure. For while every sword was turned outward, an old suitor walked in through the undefended gate. Jopin. 18 years of refusals behind him. He killed the guards. He entered her rooms, and Nigar fought. The markswoman, the survivor of 100 sieges. She put arrow after arrow into him until his breast was full of holes like a wasp's nest, and Jopin, dying on his feet, refused to the very last, swung once out of the pure bottom of his spite. Hamza was there. A breath late, as the story is always a breath late. His answer opened the suitor from skull to pelvis, but it was grief, not triumph, and the camera does not leave her face. They sent for the wise old vizier. He did not come in time, and she went to live, the tellers say, among the houris, with the necklace at her throat and his ring upon her hand. And Hamza fell across her with one loud groan, and the light went out of him. For 21 days he was mad, laughing, weeping, unmoored, and Amar did not once leave the tent door. And on the 22nd day he woke and asked, "Where am I? What has happened?" And they told him, all of it. 3 coffins were carried to a meadow near Mecca, the son, the grandson, the wife, and the whole cast walked behind them, and a keepsake box was set upon her grave, a necklace, a letter, a single goose-feathered arrow. He gave his conquest to a grandchild and sent the boy to Egypt. He dismissed his companions to their kingdoms, each refusal overruled. And when Amar begged, "Do not make me leave you," Hamza gave him the gentlest wound in the whole dastan. Mukbil stays. Mukbil is quiet. Go and be loud, brother, somewhere the world still needs it. Then he shaved his head and put on the robe of a beggar and took up a broom and swept her tomb and slept at its foot. And Ashkar, the great horse, grazed the edge of that meadow, unsaddled. The tellers say he swept her tomb as attentively as once he had broken kingdoms, and that none who saw the beggar of the meadow ever again used the word invincible of any man. But the dastan, children, does not end in the meadow. 2 lamps remain. Come back, not for battles, for what is left when the battles are done, for the answer to grief. The dastan swears there is one,